When you aren't staring at him, he's staring at you. It's like watching a tennis match. One Golden Summer, Carley Fortune. This is AMI Audiobook Review. I'm your host, Jacob Shymanski, and we're recording this on June 24th, 2025. And if you walk into any Shoppers Drug Mart or Indigo in Canada right now, you'll see the paperback version of One Golden Summer by Carley Fortune front and center on every single display. This thing is at the top of the Canadian book charts right now. Hell, Carley Fortune has 2 of her summer cottage romance books in the Canadian fiction top 10 right now. A couple weeks back, she had 4 in the top 10. So she is dominating Canadian romance at the moment. So let's review her latest book, One Golden Summer. And we're doing this with Caroline Bordeau. She's a regular contributor to the show. And today she's joining us from the most ridiculous location on a sailboat on Lake Ontario. How's it going, Caroline?
Good.
How fitting. You have a beautiful background right now. You're on a sailboat. You can see the steering wheel, the waters of Lake Ontario, and you can even see the peak of the CN Tower behind you. It must be brutally hot right now, but how fitting for this book, isn't it?
It's amazing. That's why I wanted to do this.
All right. So this will be a spoiler. Like, there will be spoilers in this review, but I don't think it's the type of book that gets ruined by being spoiled. How about we start with this, Caroline? Like, what's your rapid fire version of this review? Like, quick things. What are your thoughts?
So Alice is a photographer. She hides behind her camera and sees a lot about people. Doesn't think that people often see her or understand her. In fact, her family call her Turtle because she apparently is not very fast. But she meets her match in Charlie, who is witty and fun and interesting and really sees her.
He's not just witty and fun and interesting. Charlie is hot. And that's like half the plot.
Yes.
So Alice is going through, she still reeling from a really tough breakup and a rough patch in her career at the moment. And so she decides to go to Barry's Bay, Ontario. This is a uniquely Canadian book to go and spend time at her family's cottage along with her grandma. It was like a great aunt or something.
It's a grandmother, and grandma goes by Nan.
Yes. Nan, that's right. And so they spend almost two months there, which is a really long time to stay at a cottage.
Totally.
Who can afford to do that? But in the process, she meets Charlie. And most of this book is meant for the reader to just live vicariously through this whirlwind of a love affair. And it does so in an admittedly really charming depiction of Canadian cottage life. It's a distinctively and unapologetically Canadian book, which I appreciated that bit. A lot of Canadian foods, like they make pierogies quite a lot.
Yes.
Talk about Adirondack chairs and Harlequin romance books. Like, it's all kind of self-aware. I appreciated the setting for what it is, because this book is doing like, it knows what it is. It's a cheesy romance book, and it's leaning hard into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because there are, like, even though you've got all of this happening on one side and it's a cheesy romance and it's fun, but there are some serious relationship examinations going on as well. And there's a lot of commentary about old friends and relationships that you let lapse and things that you have to go back and fix. Because one of the central themes is the owner of the cottage they stay at is a really close family friend. In fact, Nan has cottaged there most of her life because she grew up with the owners of the cottage. But Nan has been estranged in a way from the owner of the cottage, who is a really good friend, was a good friend of her late husband's. And one of the themes that we hear throughout the book is Nan avoiding to speak to the owner of the cottage. And they do eventually resolve that, but I'll leave that at there.
They resolve it, but that's a B plot. The
Yes.
bulk of this book is just you spending time, presumably like as Alice, if you're going to put yourself in her place,
Yeah.
to just like enjoy the summer for what it is. And there's so much description of just like, oh, going out on the dock with a cup of coffee and a cozy
And
dress and
the
just sitting
paddle
down. Yeah, and the
boats. And,
paddle boat and the sun hitting your skin. It's like it really puts you in this place of like you are relaxing along with Alice, and you're
yeah.
also falling in love with Charlie. Which, like,
Yes.
can we talk about Charlie? Because
Yeah.
he's quite your typical romance novel love interest. Um, I want to know your thoughts on Charlie.
Well, he is good looking.
So good looking. He's
Yeah,
tall. He's
and he knows
muscular, and he
it.
knows it. My God, he's hot.
Yes. And then but but there's a surprise about Charlie that we learn about towards the end, and there are hints about it throughout the book, is that he has a heart condition. And in fact, Alice sees him taking his blood pressure one night. Uh, she's going to tell him something, and she sees him sitting at the table with a blood pressure monitor.
Yeah, that's
So
right. Hmm.
so that was kind of a like there were hints all along about something to do with Charlie that was strange or that he's not talking about. And then later we find out that it's a heart condition.
And one of the key characteristics of Charlie is that he has a reputation for being a player,
Yeah,
and he's I wouldn't say he has a huge ego, but he's definitely like incredibly confident.
he is
um
definitely self-confident.
he I don't know if it veers into like narcissism, because he clearly cares about other people and he's like very receptive to other people's needs, which is one of the strange things about his character, because I've never met someone in real life who puts out this image of like incredible self-confidence and like being overtly self-aware of how attractive they are while also having like incredible empathy. Like that's a combination you almost never see, and there's probably a reason why. So
Yeah.
Charlie, in my opinion, is kind of unrealistic, but let's sweep that off to the side because this is a cheesy romance book. It doesn't really
It's a
matter. Like,
fun summer read.
yo, it's meant to fantasize. Like it is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
um this is not the typical type of book that I usually read, but it's just like fun and unstressful and unchallenging, and there's
Hmm.
nothing wrong with that.
No.
I kept telling my partner what was happening in the book, and it made us both laugh because of just like how cheesy it is. I'd be like, "Oh my god!" Now she went to go and do her hair at the hair salon, and then all the women saw Charlie drive by with his fancy Porsche,
Yeah.
and they all swooned and talked about how hot he was, and she was just there like being, "Yeah, but he's mine."
What about the kids on the bridge when they're about
Oh,
to
that
jump?
was funny. Yeah, that part made me laugh too. That's one of the moments I mentioned to her as well. What happened at that bit? It was so funny. They go to jump off a bridge in the water, to be clear. And
Yeah.
when he goes first and he does this crazy backflip, and there are these two like 18-year-old girls standing behind them in line, and they're both like swooning, just going, "Oh my god!" And she turns around to them and says, "Hey, he's
That
mine.
one's mine.
That one's mine." It's all so cheesy and light. And
It
you know what this book reads like? It reads like 2010s fan fiction. And I mean like the good 2010s fan fiction. Like the writing is easy, but it flows well. Um
Yes.
and you know, there was one bit where it's mentioned that something that one of the characters loves in romance books isn't the story of falling in love, it's the fantasy of being desired. And which, if you're reading this putting yourself in Alice's shoes, like it definitely lives up to the fantasy. I'd never heard somebody describe like that appeal of fantasy
Mhm.
as like the fantasy of being desired. That makes a lot of sense to me. I kind of get it, but I'd never heard it expressed that way before.
I've never heard it described like that.
Hmm.
No.
But you know what I mean, right? Like,
Um,
what do you think the appeal of romance books like these are?
well, it's a feel-good story. Like the reason people like romance is it feels good to read it. It's interesting to some. There's usually descriptions of personalities and people and things, but it almost feels like a safe read. You know it's going to be a good ending. You know it's going to be just a nice time, right? And sometimes we just need that. Like when you and I read a lot of different things, and some of them are political, and some of them are dry, some of them are not dry, but it's not that safe read, right? Like there's something cozy about this, and we're going to talk about cozy things later again, but um, I think that's the appeal of romance reading.
Safe. I think that's a really good way to describe this. It's like you know what you're getting. You know you're not going to get devastated.
Yes.
Like imagine if at the end of this book there was a crazy plot twist where like Charlie dies or something.
Died in his surgery. Oh my
God. Right, because you're just like sitting there reading this on the dock. You're loving every minute of it. You're just chilling, and then suddenly you're just devastated. Summer ruined.
Yeah, no. But tell me about what you thought of the twins.
Oh, the twins. That's Alice's younger siblings that are both absolutely chaotic, and they're very flaky and they don't really show up. They don't have too much of a role in it. All you know is that they're just kind of in the distance, and they're what kind of contributed to Alice's household being absolutely chaotic growing up.
Yeah.
Which I think was an interesting part of Alice's characterization, is that she's like kind of like in her shell, very much like the artiste. But that's not what her family is like. Like she's very much like the black sheep in her family,
Yeah.
which like kind of made her stand out, you know. And it's
But that's an interesting way to describe her. So
like,
if they're all typically, when you think of who the black sheep would be, they're typically the chaotic, loud person that
yes.
doesn't follow the rules. But you have a whole family of chaotic, loud people who don't follow the rules, and you've got this one person.
So then the
it's
normal
like,
one is the black sheep.
yeah, exactly. So it's just flipped, which I thought was interesting too.
Yeah, and Charlie himself is kind of the opposite of Alice, where he's like extremely outgoing. He's not shy. I mean, Alice isn't shy either, but she's much more reserved.
She's reserved, and
Yeah.
she hides behind her camera a lot. And like you see it several occasions, she gets invited to parties. She goes to the parties. She wears her black outfit, which is like she calls her work uniform, and she just hides behind her camera. And people offer her drinks. Oh no, I don't drink. I'm working. But really, was she supposed to be working?
And Charlie's a player, and I think he likes the attention. He's almost like a showman, for, you know. And he
poses for her.
Yeah,
like
he poses. Yeah, that's true. He loves it.
He really does. Yeah.
Their relationship is strange, and I don't know if this is a trope in romance books, because I don't read enough romance to say this, but they basically become a pseudo couple for the 2 months of the summer. But they're not in a real relationship. Like they pretty explicitly call it like a friends with benefits type thing, only they don't actually sleep together. Like this book
have
is
benefits that they've defined. Who knows?
Yes. They end up being together after a sort of conflict at the end. Like they do end up being a couple, but during their time in the summer, Charlie refuses to ever see this as anything other than just like a summer fling.
Yeah, he won't commit. He's like commitment phobic.
He will not commit, which is like very on brand for him. But I think part of what makes this like exciting for Alice is that like she feels that like she could be different. She could be the one that makes things different for Charlie. That's the one person that he will actually open up for.
Exactly, but the reason he's not committing is because of his heart condition.
Yes, that's right. Like he says that he's like broken, and that he feels like he could not get into a relationship knowing that like he has a condition that could potentially kill him, which it doesn't. Correct. And that logic seems kind of flawed to me, especially when you consider that the surgery goes perfectly fine at the end, and they're totally fine. It ends up being a happily ever after. But you know, this is a book. Like, if I can really get to the heart of it, like this is a book that knows exactly what it is, does it well, and owns it. And what
Yes.
it is the lightest, fluffiest read you could imagine. Like, you've heard the term light read to describe easy, fun books that don't explore anything too challenging or too difficult. But this thing is a feather. It practically levitates. Like, the one thing that blew my mind, and I never thought you could like do this in a book and be successful with it, is that there is practically no tension or conflict. And when there was a hint in conflict, it got resolved right away.
Really fast.
There was a
Yes.
car accident, everyone's fine. Charlie
Yep.
gets a super risky heart surgery, it goes great and everything's fine. They have like a sort of spat, they have really good communication and fix it in like 2 seconds.
Yep.
Like, you never sit in these like dark moments for very long at all. And I never
No.
thought you could do that in a book. Isn't it weird?
It is weird, but I think it does it well for the genre that she's working in. It is a summer read, and if you look at Carly Fortune's history, her releases typically happen in spring. So I think she intentionally writes for summer reading.
Yeah, you're very much meant to read this on a dock at a cottage somewhere on a lake.
Exactly.
It's
Yes.
so clear. It's very self-aware of that too, almost. Like, they actually mention romance books quite a few times.
They do.
It's pretty self-aware. Now, if it feels like we haven't really talked about the plot, it's because it really isn't that much. Like, they just sort of meet and
we
do
covered
stuff,
it.
and each other. Yeah, we covered it basically. Alice and Charlie meet at the cottage over the summer, and they just sort of do stuff together and enjoy each other's company. Some of which includes a lot of sexual tension. There is smut, but it's actually kind of reserved. Surprisingly, I was expecting this to be like full smut, to be honest. You do get some, but it's like,
There's some, but it's not like
it's not the
no.
key. It's not the part of it. Like, this book is like
No.
99% foreplay.
Oh yeah, it's great for that. I want to go back to just the letter that Charlie leaves on the fridge when they first arrive, and her notebook, and the stuff like her to-do list that she comes up with, because I didn't want to leave that out. The two things. So the letter was basically like what he planned on, like the things he had to do for them at the cottage because the owner had asked him to, and that he was going to bring them groceries and all this stuff. And then at one point, he finds her notebook and she freaks out because she doesn't want him to read it. But he actually does read her list of, I guess, her summer bucket list from when she was 17. And they actually managed to cross off that whole list.
Okay, so actually, this is a good way to transition into this. There isn't much plot, but to give people an idea of what actually happens in the book, like you mentioned, they actually achieve everything they do on the bucket list. So, how about I just read the bucket list, because itself is pretty funny.
Sure, it's so funny.
Okay, so the first one is jump off the rock. 2, wear a skimpy bathing suit. 3, read a smutty book. 4, throw myself a birthday party. 5, kiss a cute guy. 6, take one good photo. 7, but also make a bunch of bad art. 8, 8, learn how to do a backflip off a dock, or a front flip, or an elegant dive. 9, take up a water sport, paddleboarding, water skiing. 10, go skinny dipping. 11, make a new friend. 12, do something reckless. 13, ride a jet ski. 14, wear glittery makeup like Heather used to wear. 14, put on the green dress. 16, low-key drugs, question mark. 17, sleep under the stars. And they achieve all of those things.
Yes, and I have to say the story of the green dress is funny because before Alice and Nan leave for the cottage, Heather shows up and basically throws this green dress at Alice and says, "Put it in your bag, and if you don't, I will." And it's like this little skimpy, shiny fabric.
And of course, Charlie loves it.
Oh yeah.
He loves it. There are other characters in this. Like, there's this couple from across the bay that it's actually the same cottage that Charlie is staying in. It's Charlie's brother and his
His
partner
wife.
Percy, his wife Percy. They don't really have much of a role in the story other than just sort of like filling up
They're
page time.
there.
Like they don't push
Yeah.
the plot. Same thing with Alice's sister Heather and her daughter Bennett. They sort of come up for a couple days, they hang out. Charlie's really good with kids. That's hot, and then they leave. And like the plot doesn't really progress. Like I cannot overstate this. Like this book is so fluffy and has barely any plot. You're just there to like enjoy the time at the cottage. I've never read anything like this. All right, Caroline, we'll pick it up from here because your phone actually overheated in the summer sun, so now you're down below on the sail deck. I'm kind of jealous you're getting to spend this time on Lake Ontario, but that would be the
Yeah.
perfect place to actually read this book. But we were talking about One Golden Summer by Carley Fortune. How would you? It's kind of hard to like rate this one because like as like a piece of literary work, it's not very remarkable. But as like a piece of entertainment that knows what it's supposed to be, it's incredible. Like it knows exactly what it's supposed to be, and it does it very well. Like, what's your perspective on that?
I actually really enjoyed it, and I think it totally does what it set out to do. I think Carly does a great job of taking us to a cottage in Canada, and for people in Toronto, there are even scenes of like Yorkville, and they talk about some of the places that we all know. So I think in terms of what I would give it as a rating, I would definitely give it a 5 because it's a romance and it's a summer read, and for that category, it's wonderful.
Exactly. Yeah, it's super well said. And um, this is a message for the boys. If you want to see some really good examples of amazing flirting, Charlie is the
Yeah.
goat. Yo, I'm actually like shocked at how good the flirting is. I think there's something about a woman writing a man flirting that tells you exactly how to
What
do it.
women like.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yo, if you want to know what
What
women
some
want,
women
read
like.
romance. Romance. Yo. Exactly. It's not all women,
No.
obviously. All right, Caroline, I think that wraps up our review of One Golden Summer by Carley Fortune. All right, let's do a solo review. We got Caroline Bordeau here. Detective Aunty is a cozy mystery novel written by Canadian author Uzma Jalaluddin. And Caroline, the last book I read by Uzma Jalaluddin had amazing dialogue, and I want to know if that continues to be a highlight in this book.
I think she's amazing at crafting the dialogue that keeps you reading. Even in the most serious conversations, there's something that's going to make you chuckle. And and this one I really enjoyed because it takes place in Scarborough, and it may not exist as such, like in the way she describes it, but apparently the Golden Crescent is a place, and some of the characters may be a lot like other characters that are real. So
And so it's a cozy mystery, and I'm always curious to know what the actual mystery in these types of books, because sometimes it's something as ridiculous as like who stole the book or like who ate the last cookie or something like that. So what's the mystery at the heart of the story?
well, there is actually a murder.
Okay.
So so this man who owns a plaza where several people are tenants. They own different businesses. There's like a bakery and a, a clothing shop and a grocery store. And a lot of the places are in some of her other books as well. Like some of the characters repeat. Um, and this man is found murdered in the back in a shared hallway or in an office area of the clothing store, and the owner of the clothing store gets accused of the murder, and her mother steps in to break the case open.
And so who would you recommend this for? Like what type of reader would like this book?
So I gave it to my husband to read, and he loves like the crazier the mystery, the better. And he ended up thinking that it was kind of cute, and he saw the parallels between this book and Agatha Christie, and it turns out the
Huh.
author has read every Agatha Christie out there, and so she models it after Agatha Christie. Um, so yeah, so I'd recommend it for anyone.
Awesome. If you had to give this a review, like your personal review out of 10, what do you give it?
I would give it a 4 out of 5. Sorry, so out of 10, I'd give it
I
like
was
an
like, that's
8
terrible.
or a 10.
Okay, 4 out of 5.
And yeah, 4 out of 5 or an 8 out of 10. I'd say it was really well worth the read. Like there's discussion of food, there's discussion of cultural events, there's relationship stuff between mothers and daughters, and multi-generational, multicultural um, events. I think there's a lot in this book, and it was definitely a fun read. And yes, not as appropriate for a sailboat, but I'd still say it was a great summer read.
Yeah, Uzma Jalaluddin has kind of created a niche for herself for this like multicultural, this uniquely Canadian multicultural fiction, and she always weaves it incredibly well. It's a really good way to learn at like how different cultures approach different things and how they interact in fascinating ways. Does that continue in this book?
Absolutely, yeah. Because
Awesome.
you do find like, the main character going and visiting like the, the Jamaican family whose daughter is involved in like a car stealing ring with the daughter of the main character. Like there's a lot going
Yeah.
on here. Apparently Scarborough is not such a quiet place. So yeah,
Scarborough is the furthest thing from quiet.
from quiet. So it's really Scarborough.
This accurate representation. Caroline, thank you so much for your time. That was a review of Detective Aunty by Uzma Jalaluddin. That's all the time we have for today's edition of AMI Audiobook Review. AMI Audiobook Review airs weekends at 1 p.m. Eastern and repeats every 6 hours. But we make ourselves easy to find. We're on all the big podcasting platforms, and that includes YouTube. You can email us your feedback at audiobookreview@ami.ca. That's at audiobookreview@ami.ca. And you could also follow us on Instagram at AMI Audiobook Review. That's our handle is at AMI Audiobook Review. I'm Jacob Shymanski. I was your host. You were listening to AMI Audiobook Review. Have a good one.